What's the best food to sustain endurance running in half or full marathons? Well, if you're running that much, you need more food in general, you know. But when you're an athlete, you want to make sure your diet has enough plant protein. And I take my world-class athletes, the athletes I advise, and almost all were eating most of them were eating animal proteins for their protein. And what I've done with them is I reduce the amount of animal product they eat and substitute more foods that are rich in plant proteins, and they have better performance by reducing animal products and substituting more beans, more hemp seeds, more Mediterranean pine nuts, which are very high in protein. Mediterranean pine nuts have about 30% protein. Wheat germ is about 30% protein. Edamame and tofu are about 40% protein. Green vegetables are about 40% protein. We give them much more, and that's why some of the best athletes in the world are carrying around their Vitamix shakes with them to Europe to competitions. Like I advised Eric Schlappi, who was a 4-time Olympic downhill ski racer in 4 Olympic Games. 4 Olympic Games, that means he was a top in the United States for 16 years of his 4 Olympic Games. What happens is he has increased longevity in the sport. They stay younger because they're eating healthy and they can keep competing in more Olympics. But also the reason why Eric followed a Nutritarian diet and brought his Vitamix with him and have the shakes is because he calculated out that if he used to get sick once or twice a year with a virus that kept him in bed for 3 or 4 days, he would no longer, he would interrupt his training. And the interruption in training would infect his times, and he would make, you know, $500,000 just from the people from the guy who's giving him the skis, would give him the Rosenthal company, would give him $500,000 to wear those skis or whatever, but only if he was in the top 10 in the world. The minute he was sick a couple of times, he's no longer top 10, now he's 15th in the world in the event, just by being 1/10 of a second less. And why was he 1/10 of a second less? Not because he wasn't eating more, why? Because he was eating his hemp seeds, because he didn't get sick. He was able to train all year and not miss the events. He gets more points for each event he goes into. He's going into more events, and his times are better because he's constantly training and not missing. So they're eating Nutritarian so they can keep training and not burn out and not get viral infections when they're traveling over the world, and these athletes find it helps them. So a lot of athletes really performing well, and as you know, some really top young Olympic athletes are following Nutritarian diets, as are, and you know the people who are top in their profession, like the top tennis players in the world. Like, you know, Serena and Venus Williams, but we're talking here about Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer and Djokovic, right? What's his first name? What's that? Yeah, right. And all these guys watch their diet. They don't drink. They don't eat junk food. They don't eat sugar. They go to bed early. Right? They eat healthy. They bring their they drink their smoothies of greens. They eat a lot of healthy foods. They are really cognizant of what they eat affecting their longevity in the sport. And you see guys like Jimmy Connors and McEnroe, who are now in their 60s, who are bad knees, bad hips. They look like old men. You see them watch they play tennis, and they can't hardly move or run anymore. They like slow pokes on the court. I'm watching them in an exhibition match. I could beat these guys now, you know, because they can't even run. You know, they can't move. You know, where I'm sure you'll see the opposite when you see Djokovic and Murray and Federer. When they're 60, they're still going to be in good shape because they're taking much better care of their health than than John McEnroe eating his fast food burgers and stuff. You know what I mean? These guys are in better shape. They're going to watch their health, and they're going to last longer in their sport because they watch their diet more carefully. So the question is, what's the best food to sustain endurance training in athletes? Well, when you're an athlete, you know, a vegan diet that's not well designed could be too low in protein to maximize your performance. So we give them more protein-rich plant foods, which I mentioned, right? More hemp seeds, a lot of beans and green vegetables, but we give them sunflower seeds, Mediterranean pine nuts, wheat germ, tempeh, tofu, all these things, and we have some guys that are lifting 500 pounds. You know, I have a guy who's Nate Jordan, who was a policeman in St. Louis, who lost 80 pounds in Nutritarian diet. I might have mentioned it. And now he's competing in powerlifting competitions. He's deadlifting 500 pounds and bench pressing 300 pounds, and he only weighs 165 pounds. You know, he's bench pressing double his body weight, which is amazing, right? Amazing on a vegan Nutritarian diet with no extra protein supplements, with no like pea protein or no extra protein problem. He's just doing it with the Mediterranean pine nuts. Likewise, Connor Sox, who's one of the top triathletes in the country in the 18-year-old category, he does it too. He does his strict Nutritarian diet with the Mediterranean pine nuts and the hemp seeds added, you know, he doesn't have any extra supplements. He's doing it all natural. They don't take, you know, they're getting a high protein, we could say adequate protein, right? Even for athletes. Of course, they need more calories, right? They got to eat a lot of calories, so they're doing a lot of exercise. Can IGF-1 tests be measured? Yes, of course it can. That's why the average American is around 250, and the average vegan's around 125. The average Nutritarian is also between 100 and 150. We don't want yes, it can be measured, but I'm not saying you have to measure it because it correlates well with the quality of your diet. If you're eating too much animal protein, it's going to be up. If you're on a healthy diet, it's going to be more favorable. I'm not emphasizing or suggesting that you should measure it. I'm just saying it is measurable.